One of the crucial thing we'll be installing, as I said, is this Streamlit, because that's what we use in building our web application. So you say pip install Streamlit. That's the first thing you will need to install. Now, after installing that, the second thing you will need to install is PyNgrok. PyNgrok, what is its own work? PyNgrok is a library that is specifically built to help you run web applications that you cannot run on cloud. You'll be able to run them on cloud. It will help to like clone those web applications and allow you to run them on cloud. So like this Streamlit, if you recall, I told you can only run it within a desktop environment, that is a system using VS Code or any other text editor. But because of this PyNgrok, we will be able to build the web application within Google Colab. And if you recall, I told you Google Colab is a cloud environment. We'll be able to build the code within a Google Colab environment and then run it also. So those are the first two things you need to install. So you can install multiple things at the same time by just giving space. So you say pip install Streamlit space PyNgrok space any other thing. Maybe but for our own case, these are the two things we'll be installing. So you do pip install. Me, I already have it. So if I run it, you see it, you say requirements already satisfied. Can you see? Requirement already satisfied. But when you are doing yours will run because you've not installed something like that. So that's the first step of our work. Now, after doing that, the second step now, which is very crucial, please, each and every one of us should take note. This link, I'll share the file with us at the end of the day. You need to copy this link and you need to create an Ngrok account. So you go to Ngrok here, you copy that link, you paste it within the Ngrok, it will load. Now, if you don't have an account, it will ask you to log in or it will ask you to sign up. Then you will do that. Me, I already have an account, so you see my dashboard will be what will be open. But since you are starting, the moment you click, you see this sign up, it will take you to a fresh page. Now, I will always advise you to log in using Google account. Don't go and be creating account from scratch, putting password, putting name and the rest. Just connect it with your Google account. So that's the first thing. Why do you need that? Because Ngrok will give you an API key, an authentication key that you will use in running the web application online. So we are setting up how the application should work. So please take note. First step, I said install the necessary libraries. That's step 1. Step 2, I said visit this Ngrok dashboard sign up page I gave to you. You create an account. Now, immediately after creating an account, you copy this second link I shared here and then you go to it. The moment the page loads up, you will see an API or an authentication key. Sorry, not API, an authentication key, which will pop up. Now, this place, you can also see my cursor. If I click on this place, this whole code now, this code is my authentication key. You copy it. You copy this code. Now, after copying it, you will now go to this next step I'm going to do here. And what is that next step? The next step is you add your authentication to this your Google Colab environment. How do you do that? So whenever you're trying to run a new file, all these setups you have to do it first. Although your authentication key is the same. So if I create another new Google file, I don't need to do this. Okay, I will do this step 1 should be in case it's not installed, but I will jump this step 2 because I already have my authentication key. I can just come to this step 3. So every new file you are creating must have step 1 and this step 3. And what is the step 3? You add your authentication. How do you do that? You say exclamation mark Ngrok config add _ auth token. Then you paste your authentication key here. This is my authentication key. So that authentication key that I copied, you paste yours here. My authentication key is different from yours. So please take note of that. You paste it here and then you run this cell. The moment you run it, you see something like this. This confirms that your authentication has been activated. That's step 2 because we need to set up the whole environment before we start building our application. Else you can't run your application. Next, after setting up your authentication, The next step you need to do now is to launch ngrok tunnel. Now, what does it mean to launch ngrok tunnel? Now, in order for the launching of the tunnel helps to create a link that you can access your web application online. That is why creating the tunnel is very important, because the tunnel is what will clone your application and give you a link which will enable you to access the application you are trying to build online. So, how do you do that? All you need to do is just copy what I did here. I don't need to explain this step. Just copy what I did here and then duplicate it in your code. Well, basically, it's from ngrok. I will import ngrok, and then I created a portal number, and then I pass that portal number that I created to serve as the link for my web application. Then you run it. That will be the next step. Now, after that, our application will be available on this link. But before that, there is something very important you need to do again before you can see your application. I'm coming. Let me drag this to the side. Okay. Now, what is that? This line here. To run your application, you will need to do this this exclamation mark, Streamlit run, then the name of your application. If the name of your application is app2.py, you put app2.py. If the name of your application is myapp.py, you write myapp.py. If the name of your application is closeapp.py, here you write closeapp.py. So please take note of that. That's very important. Then after that, you put these signs. This whole thing I put here is exactly the way you put. So if you are trying to run your application, after doing those first 4 steps I spoke of, you must do this step 2. The only thing that may change in this step is the name of your application. The name you will use for your application will be the name that should reside here. So the moment you run this last line, your app will be activated on the internet. Now, where will you build your app? You can now create a new cell where you can build your app. So you can take this one up before this place, or you can do this one before this one. It doesn't matter. It will still run. Now, if you check the top of my line here, I did something. Percentage, write file, I give space, and then I said app.py. Now, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to build my application downward, but what this top line means is whatever I'm going to write here. Remember, I told you Streamlit Google Colab don't allow you to run Streamlit application directly. You have to clone it. You have to create a tunnel for it using this PyNgrok. You need to create a tunnel. So the PyNgrok, the only thing that PyNgrok understood is he only knows this file, this app.py. But the problem is Google environment does not allow you to directly write inside this. Although it allows you, but it will be stressful, because if I click on the link, if I click on this app.py, you can see this is it here. So I can go here and be doing all my writing. I can write anything I want to write here. You can see I can write anything I want to write here, and I can delete the file and then I close it. You can do that. But here, doing it within this place gives you more flexibility than doing it from the sidebar. So how can you do that? By writing this write file app.py, what it means is whatever thing I write under here automatically store it inside this my app for me. So if the name of the app I want to build is app2.py, here I'm going to write app2.py, and then here when I run it here you see app2.py. But for our learning sake, I call the name of the file we'll be working with app.py. So that's the first step. Now we'll start building our application properly. We'll create the simple app before we visit this link, and then you see how our application looks like. Now, to start building your application, first thing first is to import Streamlit. Just like when we were doing pandas, numpy, and the rest, we imported Streamlit as st. We imported pandas as pd, numpy as np. The same thing here. I'll be importing Streamlit as st. So I imported my Streamlit as st. Now, next thing. In every web application, there's what we call widgets. In every application, there's what we call widget. For instance, let me show us something. Let me just show us an application I did, and then I want to use that to explain what we call widget. Now, widget is any any how should I call it, any element within your application that allows you to do something, like it provides you a particular functionality within your application. That's what we call a widget. A typical example, this drop down like this you are seeing is a widget. Why? Because it allows you to select things from it. So we have a widget called drop down, or at times we call it checkbox. It depends. In HTML and CSS we call it select. In Streamlit here we call it checkbox. We have other ones. We have radio buttons. We have check buttons. We have these ones are buttons. So all these things, they are called widgets. And then anything that allows you to write something. Different programming language has different names for them. So in Streamlit, in our application, what we'll be doing is we'll be learning some of those key and important widgets. Now, one of the key and important widgets in Streamlit is title. Now, to access any widget in Streamlit, since I've said import Streamlit as st, any widget you want to access, you just say st dot, then you write the name of the widget. For instance, if I want to write something within my application, there is a widget called write that allows you to write something. So I'll just say st.write. Then in bracket, I'll write whatever I want to write. My name is JC. So first of all, let me move these guys. Let's start simple first. Now, but remember I said write file app.py. Now, whenever you make change to this, your very environment, since you know, unlike in VS Code, if it's in VS Code, you automatically write it to your file. But since you are not working directly with this file, whenever you write something here, you want it to reflect so that your web application should run properly. Whenever you write something to this place, always run it. You can run it here, or you do shift enter. The moment you do that, the moment you see this overwriting app.py, it means it has been written correctly. Now let's click this app.py. You see that this very thing we wrote, can you see? That is what is there. So whenever we make a change here and we have to rerun it, whenever we rerun it, it will reflect there. Now let's go to this our link and see how our application looks like. So if you want to go to your application, this very first link that was created is where you click. So let's allow it to load. The moment it finishes loading, there will be another link again for us. Now this is what you see the moment it finishes loading, but this is not your main app until you visit this site. The moment you visit this site, you have access to your main application. Sorry, I didn't rerun something. Okay, I didn't rerun this, sorry. That was why. Okay, whenever you make changes to your app.py, always run this your step 5 also, so that the change will reflect. If not, the change will not reflect. This one was showing the previous file that I left there. So let it finish loading. Let's see how our app looks like. Why is it not reflecting? I'm coming. Let me restart. Okay, let's visit our app now and see. Now you can see my app now. My name is JC was what appeared the way I wrote it here. You can see that was what appeared in my app here. So that is how you can build your web application. So mind you, I say whenever you rewrite something here, you save it, you run this one, and then since the you can only whenever when you write something, one shortcut you can do, there's no need to rerun this too. Once you've written something, you can just go back to the window here and just refresh. It will reflect and just refresh. Even this procedure I took is a longer procedure. You can just go back here and then refresh and everything will reflect. So let me put the code that was back here before. Now, I said st.write allows you to write something to your screen. Now we have what we call st.title. Now what is st.title? st.title is a widget that allows you to write something as a title. It usually writes something very big. It writes something very big. That is what st.title does. For instance, let's rerun this. Now I've saved this to my file, right? Let's refresh now. Now you can see my first app created. You can see this one was bigger than the other one we wrote before. So this is how you can use st.title. If you want something to appear big as a title, you can use st.title. Whereas I say st.write, we usually use it to write something small, like just a normal text. Okay, for instance, let's say this app helps to check your name, your age, sorry, helps to check your age and displays it to the user. Let me move this too. Okay, now let's remove this first and see how our app looks like. So we overwrite by running this and then we come back here, we refresh. You see that what I wrote will reflect here also. One good thing with Streamlit is once you are using Streamlit, you don't need to bother about placing your app to the center or to the side. It does that automatically for you. You can see it created some margin here, it created some margin here. So the longer you write, you see that your writing occupies this. It always centralizes your web application for you. So that's one good thing with Streamlit, and it is also mobile responsive in the sense that the more you change the view to a mobile application, it will change. Unlike HTML and CSS and the rest, where you need to manually set them up. So the very first thing we'll be looking at that I want to do here again is I want to introduce another widget called Slider. Now, what is Slider? Slider is an application that it allows you to drag something, maybe go take it up or take it down. Now, I want to use this slider to create an age. I will ask you what is your age. You will set your age using the slider. So you can see I said, now those widgets you can pass them as a variable. Take note of that. You can pass them as a variable. That is why you see I said age equal to st.slider. What it means is whatever the person selects, that will be stored as the age of the person. So what does slider accept? One, slider accepts a label. Now, what is a label? A label is something that the information that you will display to your user in order for him to know what you are talking about. Almost every widget has a label. A label tells the person, this is what I want you to do. But if you leave your label as empty, nothing will appear. When I mean empty, I mean you just put quotation mark, maybe something like this, or you put a double quotation mark like this. That is what I mean by empty quotation mark. So in our case, I want the slider to ask someone, how old are you? So first of all, I need to pass the label that should appear for the user. Next, you need to pass it a start value and an end value. That is, I want you to start from so age and I want you to stop at so age, and then you give it the number of steps. Now, I want my slider for ages to start from age 18. Let's assume I'm trying to build a web application that only allows adults. For instance, let's say I'm trying to build a voting application, a voting web application that people can vote. In order for me to do that, if I'm creating a slider for age, I can only start the age from 18. and then my end age. In my case, I used 90, and then the step I said 1. What it means by 1 is after 18, if the person drag, it should go to 19. If it drags, it should go to 20. Like that, it should be increasing itself by 1 until it gets to 90. But if you want to make them maybe 10 10, you can change your steps here to 10. But in our case, I'll put 1. So this was one of the widgets I created. The second widget I created is a button. Now you can create a button straight by saying maybe btn to be equal to st.button, something like this, dot button, and then you write the label. Whenever I say label, it's what I want to appear on top of that widget for someone to understand what the widget is meant for. So whenever I mention label, that is what I'm referring to. You can do it like this, but the problem is Streamlit is still a new library. So there are some things that you can't pass to it. For instance, you cannot pass an action. Action means when I click you, I want you to do a particular thing. You can't pass an action option to it. So because of that, we now they brought a refined way where you can build a button. Whenever you want to build a button that you want it to perform a particular thing, for you to build it, just say if then st.button, whatever you want to appear on the button. For instance, let me write press here. Press here. Maybe that's what I want to appear on the button. After saying press here, under the if statement, now you write what you want user to see. Whatever thing you want should happen the moment the user click on the button, you write it under the if statement. So you can see I said st.write I am, age, years old. That is whatever age that this person drag on the slider, the moment he clicks on press here, there will be an st.write I am, age, years old. That is, for instance, if I drag my slider to 27, it will write I am 27 years old. Let's assume not just that, I want the age of the person to appear as a title. Let's say I want the age of the person to appear as a title. I can say age, years old, like this. So let's assume when the person runs press on the press here button, these two things should appear. So let's run the application now. We've run it, so it has been written to our app.py. Now let's go back here and refresh. The moment we refresh, you will see that our application will have more widgets created on it. Now you can see our application now. So let's drag our widget. You can see as I'm dragging, it's increasing by 1. Okay, let's assume I dragged. Okay, let's say I stop at 65 years old. Now the moment I click press here, you can see I am 65 years old. And you can see the second one I said that 65 should appear as a title. You can see it appeared as 65. Sorry, or something let me do it like this. Let's do it like this. Because I want the years old to also. Oops, sorry. Okay. I was supposed to concatenate it, convert it to string. Now, what I just did was something we did in our very first class when we started on how you can concatenate strings and letters. You can see now it worked well. So let's assume I drag my slider to 25. The moment I click here, you can see at 24, I'm 24 years old, 24 years old. So you can see we've learned how to create about 4 widgets now on Streamlit application. So this is how you can create a Streamlit web application. Now let's go to other widgets. I'm going to show us how to create other more advanced widgets. So I will just run through the whole widget and tell you what they do. Then after that, we'll now go to the application and run it. So now I created an application that accepts different types of widgets. Now in the whole building of our web application, one important widget will work with very well is this text input. Text input is a widget that allows you to write something inside. We have text input, we have number input, we have different types of input. They all allow you to write something inside. But text input gives you flexibility. However, anything that a text input picks, it picks it as a string. It picks it as a string. So whenever you pick, even if it's an age you write there, it picks it as a string, but you can convert it to an integer. How do you do that? By writing int, then you pass that value. We did that in our very first class, where you can convert from string to integer, from integer to string, from integer to float to string, all those things. We did it. So you can refer back to our day one class for all these information. So this text input, this st.text input will work with it very well. So please take note of that. However, I'm going to explain different widgets and then we come to that. So I want to create an application. The application will allow you to write your name, your age, you select your date of birth. It's like an hospital application, or you're trying to, not really an hospital application, an application that is just making some survey about a person. So it asks for his name, his age, date of birth, appointment date, favorite color, hobbies, satisfaction level of using the app. Is he going to subscribe to the channel? What gender? You allow him to upload like a profile pics. What is his favorite color? Like that. Not really a profile pics. You can upload something. I just gave an instance. It's in the second one down here that I passed a profile pics. So how do you do that? Just like I said when we started, I said any widget you want to work with, you just say st dot the name of the widget. So a widget that allows you to write input, a text input for strings that accept strings, integers, and the rest. Even a number, you can use this text input for it. It will accept a number. So the name of that widget is text underscore input. In Streamlit, you don't join two things together. You separate them using hyphen and underscore. So please take note of that. If I call two names, you separate them using underscore. So the very first one is st.text input. That one, I remember I told you every widget always has a label. So these ones accept a label. You can write it, maybe you can say label equal to, or there's no need to write label. You can just pass it. It knows that you are referring to the label. So you can do it like that. So for the name, I said the name of the person should be st.text input. What is your name? The age should be st.number input. Now, why do I age here? Why did I use a number input instead of text input? You can use text input and then convert it to an integer. However, let me show you what I meant. What I meant is if I want to create the age, I can do something like this. I can say age to be equal to int first, then inside bracket I'll now say xt.text input. I'll now say enter your age. Now, if you remember in our very first Python class, I told you whenever you want to convert something to integer, you put int outside. So remember I told you this text input takes everything as a string. So this integer will help you to convert it to a string. But in our case, since I'm trying to show us different types of widgets, I didn't do that. But if you are trying to build a real application, you can do that. You can do that when you are trying to build a real application. So take note of that. Or you can do even with this number input. The difference between number input and text input is number input gives you a flexibility, just like the way that slider gives you. A number input gives you a up and down drop arrows. When we run the application, you see that. In number input, you can set minimum value, you can set maximum value, just like you set in this slider here. Minimum value, maximum value, step. The same thing you can do here. Minimum value, I said I want the age to start from 0. But since we are trying to build an application, let me just put 18 for instance. The maximum age, let's say the app should stop at 85 years. And then step, I put 1. That is, after 18, the person can go to 19, 20, like that. This one addresses the age. Now, another input is date input. There's an input that allows you to enter date. For instance, you are trying to build an application that accepts calendar. You can use this date input. So how do you access it? You say st.date input. But since it's a date of birth, I gave it a variable name, date of birth. Now, these variable names are very important because when you want to pass them, you can see it's those names that I use for them that I'm passing here. So it's very important. always give your widget variable name aside from the button that I told you. Okay, aside from the button that I told you, you can put it direct by first of all passing if statement before you say st.button, then the label of the button. So the next thing we can go to is your appointment date. Okay, I'm on the date of birth, right? Okay, so st.button, first of all, you pass the label. I told you every widget has a label, so always pass your label. It also accepts minimum value. Now, there's a way you can put calendar dates. I want you to start from so year to so year. Now, there's another library called datetime that allows you to pass dates. If I should say date in brackets 2021, 1, what it means is I want you to start my date. I want you to give me the calendar of January 1st, 2021. That is what it means. So it is this date time library that allows you to do that. So the data library has a function called date. So this date, which we imported from this data library, will allow you to set a particular year in your calendar. So if you can see here, the minimum value, I said I want it to allow people that are born from January 1st, 1950 to select a year, down to those that are given birth to in 2020, December 31st. So these are the minimum and maximum years that I want to see my application. I don't want to see any age, any year like 2021 upwards. So the application is built for people that are 5 years and above. Since we're in 2025, the application is built for people that are 5 years and above. If you are less than 5 years, you can't use the application. That is what this date of birth is trying to tell us. You can't set your date of birth within that range. So next, appointment date. There's another widget called time input. Just as the name implies, this time input widget allows you to pick a date, a time, whether 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you can do that. Then the next is favorite color. Earlier, if you remember, I said there's a library called there's a widget called drop down that allows you to select something. In Streamlit, it is not called drop down, it is called select box. For instance, if you want to set gender of people, you can use this select box. Or if you want to set colors, you can use this select box. Or if you have different options that you want people to select one from a drop down, you can use this. So if you are building your web application, either you can use a radio button for setting your gender, or you can use the select box. But I mostly use select box if I'm trying to build my application. Mostly for professional work, I usually use this select box to give me an option of drop downs if I have more than one option. So I passed the widget. I said, choose your favorite color. Now, for all these ones that allows you to do selection, you always pass them an option. They don't have minimum value, max value. They have option. And in your option, you always put your option in a list. You give them the options that you want to appear on the drop down. So you can see the favorite color, I gave it some option. I gave it 4 options. You can give them plenty option. It depends on what you are doing. Whether you are picking data from a database or from a data set, anything is up to you. But since it's a sample, I gave us just 4 options. Then the next one, there's another one called multi-select. This one allows you to do single select. This select box. Then there's another one that allows you to do multi-select. That is, you can select more than one option. It's the same way. It works the same way. It appears as this select box too, a drop down. However, this one will allow you to select more than one option. So you can see I also gave it an option, but when we run the application, you can see that I can select more than one option using it. Then satisfaction, I use slider, the same slider we used earlier was what I used here. And then we have another one called st.color-picker. This one allows you to pick a color. You may not even use it. Maybe you are trying to build a painting application. You can use this color picker to allow somebody to pick a color. So after that, I want all this information that a person pick, they should be displayed after he has clicked on this button submit. That is why I said if st.button submit, and I wrote all the things that I want to appear under. Now, what are the names? Okay, I skipped something. This one. There is another widget called file uploader. What does file uploader does? File uploader is a widget that allows you to upload something from your storage. At times, those of us that used to do KYC and the rest, at times they will ask you upload your ID and it will grant you access to your local storage or to your directories within your system. In Streamlit, whenever you want to have access to that, you use this st.file uploader. Then you tell him, I want you to upload. Maybe if it's PDF or doc file, you can put. Now, this is where you specify the type of content it is to receive. In the next example I'll show you here, I specified it. But in this case, I left the type as none. What it means by none is it can accept any type of file. But if you want to restrict the types of file, maybe strictly images you want it to accept. Like if you are building a KYC application, it's definitely strictly images. You specify it here, maybe PNG, JPEG, JPG, GIF, and the rest. So, but for the first instance we are doing, I set the type as none because I want it to accept any type of file. So I want it to display all the information that a person selects. So I said the moment the person click on this button, I want you to write st.success. Now, what is st.success? st.success is an alert. There's what we call alert. Alert is usually like a green box that displays information for you. That is just a box that displays information for you. That's what we call alert. So we have different types of alert. We have st.success, we have st.info, we have st.danger, we have st.warning, and we have st.primary. Those are the basic types of alert we have. Now, the one that displays green color, you can be writing it down somewhere. The one that displays green color, maybe if you are trying to show that something, okay, a practical example, maybe you are trying to fill information in a web application at times. If you skip some information, they will now, if you click on submit, you just see a pop-up will appear red telling you specific informations are needed. For instance, if you skip the age, it will now tell you the age is needed, but it's highlighted in red. That is an alert box. That red is st.danger. It's telling you that this particular place is needed. But there are some that when you click, it will show you green. Green means it has been successfully submitted. So that is the one we call st.success. There's another one we call st.primary or st.info. Both of them, they are blue in color. Those ones are used to display information. Then st.warning is usually orange, or at times we call it yellow in color. That one is trying to give you a warning sign about something. So those are the different types of alert we have. So first of all, I said I want it to show me an alert, and the alert should say form submitted. I just put an emoji here. You can put anything there of your choice. And then I said st.write, it should write the name of the person and then name. Now, if you remember our very first class when we were doing basics of Python, we did something like this, whereby I said if you want something to be formatted, you just put F outside, and then you write instead of it to be separating them with comma, for instance, instead of it to say st.write, you can do it like this too, or you can do it the other way, the way I did it here. So instead of you to do like this, name, and then you say name, like this, or this second one, they will both give you the same output. The only difference is that this one will help you to reduce all the comma that you'll be putting in your code. Rather, the moment you just put this F, you just write everything within your quotation mark. The only thing is anything that is a variable, you always put it in parentheses. Anything that is a variable. Name is a variable. Look at it. That was why I put it in parentheses. Age is a variable. You can see age is a variable. I put it in parentheses. Date of birth is, appointment date, all of them you can see they are variables. That was why I put them in parentheses. Then the only one that is different was this file. I did a little change here. I said if file st.write file uploaded, then the name of the file. Now, why did I do that? I did that because I want the file uploaded to the moment you click on the submit button, just like the way button is, that you cannot write it straightforward the way you are writing all these ones, putting them in a variable. The same thing applies to this file uploader too. If you are working with a file uploader, you always use an if statement for it too. So if you check, their pattern is almost the same. The difference is that this one, I already have a variable for it. So even this button too, I can create a variable for it. For instance, I can do like this. I can call it, I can say btn to be equal to this, and then I can say if btn like this. So but day, I can do it like this, it will still work. So that was the same thing I did. I gave it a name file. Let me change it to file one because file is a keyword. That is why it's highlighting blue for me. File one. Okay, so you can see I said if file one st.write, then the name of the file that is being uploaded. Then after that I finish with else st.error. Remember I told you we have st.danger, or you can use okay, sorry, danger is in Bootstrap. Sorry, I'm talking about something else. It's in Bootstrap. In Streamlit, we don't call it danger, we call it error. It's when we are working with Bootstrap that I call it danger. We have success for green, we have danger for red, but in Bootstrap we call it error, st.error. Fill out the form and click submit to see your response. Now if you check here, you can see I put 2 asterisks. Now what does this asterisk stand for? Asterisks help you to display something in bold. For instance, let me show you a practical example. Let's put 2 asterisks for this name. You will see that this name will appear in bold. That is, this label name like this, it will be bolded, but the other ones won't be. So that is how we can build application. Now why do I use else statement here? I use else because I used if here. So if you like, you can remove this else. So whenever an error happens, whenever there is an error, nothing will be displayed. But I want you to display something for me after an error. That was why I put else st.error. This is the error I said it should be displayed whenever there is an issue within my application. So let's run it first. So I've run it. So this file has been successfully written to my app.py. Now let's run our app.py. You see that our app.py now has all those widgets we've created. Now can you see? These are all the widgets. Now you can see these error. Fill out the form and click submit to see your response. Is that what is there? Fill out the form and click submit to see your response. Now why is it appearing? Because I've not done anything within my application. So just like I told you, I say if you don't want anything to appear down there, you can just remove this guy. You can just remove this. If I remove this and save and run my application, you see that nothing will appear down there now. Okay, so you can see this is the text widget. It will allow me to write my name. Now this one is the age. Now you can see it gave me plus as I'm clicking. That's why I told you the number input, this second one, I told you is a little bit different from the text. That's this number input. You can see it's different. This one gives you the option to reduce number, to increase number. Unlike this one allows you to just input numbers. So this is the then you can see this is the calendar. You can see it gave me an option of a calendar. I can select. Remember, we set our calendar from 1950 to 2020. You can see 1950 to 2020. So let's assume I choose my date of birth in maybe let's say September 11, 2019. You can see it has been set. Then you can see my time, which you can see is a drop down. I can choose the time I want to choose, 11. And then this is that select box I spoke of. This select box we did here. This select box, you can see if I choose green, you can see green reflect. If I click it, it will give me an option. If I click yellow. Now this second one is the multi-select. Take note, you see the difference. You can see they look alike, but there's a difference. If I click reading, you can see reading added here. It will allow me to choose another thing again. If I click travel, you can see, and you can come back and remove any option that you don't like. So if you have, we are trying to build an app that will allow people to select different options. A typical example, those of us that have done maybe one way or the other, you've done data analysis using Tableau. It was something like this they used. if you want to drag and drop something within the row or the column, you can put multiple options like this. It's using this multiple select. So one good thing with this one, any option you put, it will be removed from the drop down. Any option you put, you can see as I'm putting it, the drop down is reducing. Then this one, I can set, I'm setting my value. Then I use a checkbox. I think I skipped a checkbox. I use the checkbox. What is checkbox? Checkbox is this one, this guy here that allows you to check something or uncheck it. That is what we call a checkbox. So that one we use a checkbox for it. Then anyone that will allow you to select one option. Checkbox can allow you to select more than one option, just like the multiple select does. But radio allows you to select only one option. So you can see that one we wrote radio. Therefore, checkbox is called checkbox. So you can see the radio. I can select, maybe if I select female, you see male was deactivated. If I select male, so you can see this is the radio button, whereas this one is the checkbox. Then this one is the one that allows us to upload the file. So you can see I can upload, let's say for instance, I selected this image, you can see. Then this color picker, you can pick any color of your choice. You can see as I'm putting the color, the hex code, this is what we call hex code. Every number representation in programming normally is being represented using hex code, not the name. Like blue has an S code. White, the normal hex code for white is FFFFFFF, 6 Fs. Then the normal hex code for, like, let me show us, let me take it to white. You'll see that hex code. You can see everything is FFFF. If I take it to black, it's 00000. So every number has an hex code representation. So let's assume, let me just fill this form. It's my name. Let me leave the age as 18. Let me change this calendar to a particular age. Let me pick anything. Then let me leave the gender as others. I've selected the file. The moment I submit, you'll see everything will be displayed. Now you can see that st.form success that we wrote. We said success. Since it's st.success, you can see it appeared as green color. So let me show something. Let me see whether the change will reflect again. Let's assume I change it, instead of success, let me put info. Let's see whether it will reflect. Let's run the app and see if it will reflect. Okay, so let's just click on the submit. You can see that the color is different from the one we set up the other time. So this is how you can use a different widget within your Streamlit application. So before we move to the second code I wrote down, it's just an improvement of what we did here, but the down one here will be a little bit faster. Before we move to that one, I want to give room. If you have any question for the one we did up here, you can ask. If there's any question on any widget which you don't understand, or maybe any of the process I did for creating accounts and the rest which you don't understand, you can ask. Remember I told you we have different, these alerts, we have different. We have success. Success is the green one. I said info. Info. Sorry, let me admit someone first. Okay. I said we have success, we have info, we have error, and we have a warning. So all these on your own after the class, since I've mentioned them, you can play around with them and then check how they appear. So before we proceed, I want to give room. If you have a question, you can ask on what we've done so far. If there's any question, you can ask before I move to the next aspect. So any question? Okay. Since everyone is quiet, I want to believe there is no question and everything we did is clear. Okay. Let me uncomment the second code. So this one, I'll first of all run it before explaining anything. So let's overwrite our file. I've created a new application. Let's rerun it and see the appearance of this our application. Now, this is the application I created in the second one. This my application has 2 pages. This is one of the page. It was that same thing we created. I created it in a new page, and then we have an intro page, a page that we introduce your application first. Welcome to my first Streamlit application. I believe by now you know how I was able to write this. I was able to write this using st.title. I was able to write this using st.write. Now, in this second class, I'll be introducing what we call Markdown. This is what we call Markdown. Markdown allows you to write HTML code inside your application. It will help you to create different styles. You can see the size of this font is different from this one. I can see this one has a different color, different from this one. I can make this one italic, I can make it bold, I can make it whatever thing I want. Different from this guy. However, in Streamlit, whenever you want to make something bold, you use 2 asterisk. You can use 2 asterisk. So if you see this our application, we have an introduction page, we have an image saved there, and then if we change it to the showcase page, you can see the showcase page. You can see these labels. I give them a different colors, but other options are the same with what we did. I can see the images. I restricted them. I said I want the upload. I restricted. I said I only want images. So, and any image I select, I want the image to be reflected to appear within my application. So let me submit. You see that the image, you can see the image. This is the image I selected. It has been uploaded within my. This is how they usually create a profile picture on our Facebook account. You see that when you create, you will now be seeing your profile picture somewhere. It is using something like this, all this file upload, and then they'll just format it, put it in a cycle in a box, and then display it. So with those techniques, that was what they usually use to create profile pictures or any uploaded picture in a web application. So now I'm back to the code. Let me explain. Now, how was I able to get this 2-page application? That's the first thing. You can expand it, you can reduce it. How was I able to get this 2-page application? Now, Streamlit has a widget called st.sidebar. Now, if you check, I first of all did something. I created a variable called page. Now, what is page? This page variable is the one that will hold all my pages. If I want to create 3 pages, if I add another one here, let's assume I said home page. So you can create multiple pages in your application here. If I create this home page, it will also be added within my Streamlit application. But I've not yet designed how the home page should look like. I haven't designed that. But in the options, in the drop down to select the page, you see there. But I haven't created it. So if you click it, nothing will happen because I haven't created it yet. So let's wait for the application to run. Oops, I didn't run it. I only created it. Okay, so while it's running, let's come back here now and explain. So whenever you want to have multiple pages, you want to create an application that have multiple pages, we have a Streamlit option called sidebar. Sidebar is what helps you to create these multiple pages. You can see the home page has been added. We have 3 pages. So if you want to have 10 pages, you can put them all in the select options. So we have a function called sidebar. So st.sidebar, it will help you in creating multiple pages. Then the st.sidebar, you need to pass a select box option for it. Now, what will the select box option do? The select box option is the one that will help you to move from one page to another. It will give you the different names of your pages. So you can see I put st.sidebar.select box, and then I say choose a page, and then I gave it all the names of our pages. So let me remove this one. Let's maintain our 2 pages only. Let's remove this. Let's maintain our 2 pages only. So how will you now assign different contents to different pages? Any page you want to assign something to it, you will carry the name of that page. You will carry the name. The first one, the name is introduction. So if you want to work with introduction page, you say if page equal introduction, then anything that you want to appear within the introduction page, you write it under that if statement. The moment you are done, you go to your second page. The name of the second page is widget showcase. You can see I said elif page equal. Remember if statement after using f, you can use elif. Now why am I using elif? I'm using elif should be in case I have plenty options. But if I have just 2 pages, I can say if page equal to introduction, then the second one I'll just put else. That's all. But for safety reason, always use if for the first page. Even if it's 2 pages, the second one you use elif for it, don't use else. Always use if and elif. So you can see in my introduction page, I said these are the things I want to appear in my introduction page. I want a title, st.title. I want an st.write. And then I introduce something new, st.markdown. And I told you st.markdown allows you to write HTML code inside your web application. Now, for those of us that are coming from an HTML background, now, if we finish our classes, our whole session on your own, you can learn HTML. HTML is not part of this course, but you will need it if you are trying to use Markdown in your application. But it isn't difficult. So in HTML code, there is something we call p tag. P tag, we usually use it to write paragraph. So that was why I put p tag here. So any HTML tag, you always put it inside a bracket like this, and it always have a closing tag. Any option that has an opening tag always have a closing tag. That's one thing with HTML. But if you are working with them within a Streamlit application, always put it in quotation mark. So whatever you want to appear will be written within your p tag. So let me show us how to do it from scratch. Let me okay, so now within my p tag, now write what I want the user to see. I can say this is my first usage of HTML codes within my Streamlit application. That is that. Now let's assume this within, I want this within to be italic. Let me cut it first. HTML has a tag called I that we usually use to make something italicized. So I'll put the opening and close, and then I put this. Then if I want something to be bold, we have a tag called B. Let me cut this. Maybe this HTML code. This HTML code, I want it to appear as bold. So I can put this B. Then I close it also. B. Then within it, I put this. Yeah. So now this p tag, let's assume this whole line of code, all these sentences, I want them to have different colors. I want it to have different colors. So in HTML allow what we call embedded styling. Whenever you want to apply a style, you write style, style like this. You first of all write style, and then you say equal to. Then you put 2 quotation mark also inside. Then inside you can undo normal HTML styling. Now, one property that you can use to style any text is font size. You can change font size. So let's say font size, I can say my font size, I want it to be 20 pixels. For instance, sorry, I forgot this is HTML, not Python, so I'm supposed to use double quotation mark. Yeah, font size 20 pixels, like this. This is how you do it. If you write the key of what you want to do, you put dot dot. The moment you finish writing the value, you put semicolon. So please take note of how I'm doing it. The next thing, let's say I want to write the color. So I'll say color. That is how I want the text to appear. Maybe the color, I want it to appear as, let's say yellow. Let me put the yellow I put before. I want it to appear as yellow. And then let's say, let me just leave these two for now as the style. Then this is my first usage of everything. Since I put this to the overall p tag, everything will appear as yellow. Let's add on this HTML code. I don't want it to be yellow. I want it to be white. So I'll need to give it its own style to different. I'll say style equal to, and put it to quotation mark. Then I can say color. I'll now say white, like this. Then this within also, let's say I want to give him his own style too, differently. I'll say style equal to, then inside the style I can say color, and then I'll give it an option, let's say blue as the color option. Okay, how they sound? Okay. Hope it's not someone that wants to join in. Let me see. I guess network today is really a challenge to some of us, because even me too, I'm experiencing a little bit of network issues, making my screen to lag. Okay. All right. So let's continue. All right. So we've put the styling for the markdown. We've put the styling. Now, whenever you use markdown, whenever you finish putting your styling within your markdown, always add this comma on save allow HTML equal to true. Why is that important? It's important because markdown allows you to do HTML codings inside. So if you didn't set this on save allow HTML, it will not reflect. So you need to allow HTML to be reflected in your application. That is why you need to set this on save allow HTML to be equal to true. So always take note of that. Then next, you can upload an image. I copied an image, a random image from the internet, and then I gave it a name image. So in order for you to add image, you say st.image. Then here you pass the location of the image, comma. You can add a caption, or you can, let me remove the caption. I don't want the caption to my image. Caption means something that should appear beneath it. Like here, you can see this is the caption. This is what we call caption. So I don't want the caption. Then you use container width equal to 2. Use container width means it should fit within your application like this. It should take this entire width of the application. Remember, I told you your web applications are usually centralized in Streamlit. So it will take the entire width of the application. So let's run it and then see whether there's a change reflected in our web application. Now, can you see? This is my first usage of HTML code. You can see the HTML code was white, the same way we set it. We set it here to be white. You can see it. It appeared as white. Then within, you can see within, I said it should be italic and it should appear as blue. You can see it appeared as blue, and then the remaining ones as yellow. So Markdown can allow you to perform manipulation, a lot of manipulation using HTML and CSS within your Streamlit application. Then that image that I uploaded, you can see the image reflected here. So that is that on my first page. Now the second page, which is my widget page, in order for me to work with that, I'll just say elif page equal to equal widget case, and then I start writing. Everything should be under the elif. So it was the same code we wrote up that I copied and do down here. Just that I did a little modification. How? Or what is the modification? Now, in the former codes we did before, you will see that whatever you write as the label will appear. But at times, these labels are small. They are very small. People that have eye problems, they might not see these widgets, these labels very well. So I can still use that st.markdown to increase the size of the label, And I can also style the label. If I want it to be bold, I can make it bold. If I want it to be italic, I can make it. If I want to change the color, I can change the color. That's why I see here I used a different coloration for it. So this will be what I will explain, but every other thing will remain the same because it's the same thing we did up that I did down. So first of all, let me do something here. Let me comment this out. Now, let me show you something. Or let me run it and then show you something before I come back to the code. So Markdown, just like I said, Markdown allows you to add styling using HTML. So even within, if you are trying to create widgets or labels for widgets, you can use Markdown. But there is a problem when you are using Markdown. I want to show us that problem. Let's run this application. Once it's finished running, you'll see the problem. Okay, let's go to that widget page. Now look at something. Look at this widget that we created, this one that we created using normal labels. You can see there's no too much space between this entry box and the label on top. But look at this one that I created using Markdown. There's too much space here before the entry box. However, in this second one, I was able to handle that. There's no too much space here. The space is limited. This one is better, but this one is too much. So how do you handle this too much space? This is how you can handle it. Back to your code now. This place that I commented is what will help you to handle it. So any widget you want to handle the space for it, you will pass the name of the widget. You have to do that first before you move down. So how do you do that? You put style. This style is the same way we wrote it vertical like this. Where we earlier, the same way I wrote it vertical here in one line. It's the same thing, just that now I decided to do it. And sorry, here I did it horizontally. Now I decided to do it vertical. So I'll start with style. I do it up, I do it close. But since I'm doing it vertical, you must put 3 quotation mark. If you are doing it horizontal, you do 2 quotation mark. But if you are doing it vertical, you use 3 quotation mark. That's why I say I did 3 up, I did 3 down. Then you can see that on save allow HTML true. I did it here. So how do you do that? In order for you to attack something, any widget within the application, you must know the name of the widget. Now, what is the name of this widget? This widget that allows you to write any number without any restriction. Remember, we call it text input. If you remember, that is the name, text input. So how do you attack it? In order for you to attack it or to change the style, you say div square bracket data dash test ID. Then you say equal to, you now pass the name of the test ID. The name of the test ID is text input. So you always write st text input. If it is number input, you say st number input. If it is checkbox, you say st checkbox. If it is image, you say st image. Anything you want to change the style, you pass it like this. So please take note of that. So this code, anytime you want to change the style of something, the code will remain the same. The same way I wrote the code is the way you write it. And then do the changes you want to do, the manipulation you want to do. Now, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because here initially, okay, if you may ask, okay, why is this space created? This space is created because within my application here, look at where I created this yellow writing, this enter name, and this yellow writing. Look at where I created it here. This is it. I created it before this age input. Look at it here. I created it here. I write, let me remove this span. Let me just use a p tag. Let's use our normal p tag for paragraph. You can use span. Span too can use. So you can see I said the style font size 20, color yellow, font weight both, margin 0, enter age, dot dot. You can see this is the enter age, but they created a space here. Why is this space created? If you remember, I told you every widget always accepts a label. So you cannot leave it empty. You must put a label. But you can see the label. What I meant is you cannot put it empty. I mean, you can't leave it like this, because if you leave it like this, it will run an error. It will ask you, it cannot see a label. So you must create a label. However, this is not the guy I wanted to put the label, because if I put the label will appear very small, tiny like this one, which I don't want. I want my label to be big, and I can't control it from here. That was how Streamlit was created. You can't control it from here. You can only manually do it. So In order for me to do that, it is marked down. So I can't write enter age up here and see write enter age. We have a duplication. So to avoid the duplication, it is only the up one I'll write, then the down one, I will leave it as empty. So it is because of that empty space created that we wrote there. That is why this space here is created. It's because of that empty space. So now we are trying to attack this empty space and then change the display. If we set the display of this empty page to be none, this place will be removed. If we set the display to be none, none means I don't want you to display anything there. I want you to be hidden. I want you to be taken away. That is what it means. So to remove it, that was what I did in this second one. That is why you can see that space was removed. So now let's do it here. So you can see within my code now, after writing the name of the label, number input, if it is text input, I'll say text st text input. Okay, back to the first one. St text input was the first one. And then you now write what you want to attack. What do you want to attack? This direction sign means I want to attack a particular thing. So I'm telling him what I want to attack. Remember, it is the label I want to attack. That is this label here. I want you to do something on it. That is why I say I put label and then I put square bracket. It is within your square bracket and that you write what you want should happen. Remember, I said I want the display to be none, meaning I don't want anything to be displayed. I don't want to see this space here. So you can see I wrote it. Then after that, I now went down and I write my normal st.text input. And the moment I run it, if I refresh my app now, you see that that space will be gone. So that was how I was able to handle the space. So anytime I want to change the color, let's assume I don't want that yellow color again. This is my enter age. I don't want the color to be yellow. I can come here and change the color. Let's say I want it to have a color of orange. Let's say I want it to have a color of orange. Let me run it. Then refresh. You'll see that the color will change. So whenever you're trying to build your application and you want to do something like that, that's how you do it. So every other code remained the same. I didn't change it. The only thing I changed again was this file upload, because I want any image that is being selected, it should reflect. So whenever you want to put something, you want to add, you want to display an image within your application, we say you use st.image. Now you can see this one that I changed. You can see that space that was there has been removed. Now you can see that one that I changed to orange. You can see the color has changed to orange. So this is how you can attack labels and then manipulate them. So to the file now, this file was the second person I did some change. If you remember in the first example I gave, I set the type as none, so it will accept anything. But in this second app, I restricted the type. I want only images, and even the images, I only want JPEG image and PNG. So any format that you want, if it is document you are working with, you can pass doc, docs, PDF, and any other document supported format. So that is what the type accepts. It allows you to pass the accepted format of document you want. So you can see I passed it. So now how was I able to display the image here? That's when someone selects, let me select it again. Okay, let's say I selected this image, and then when I submitted, how was I able to display the image here? How was I able to display it? Now this was where I displayed it. So I said if file. Remember the other earlier we said if file. We just put if file and then I wrote whatever thing. I said write st dot. So this if file that I wrote, I allow it even if the if file is empty, it can do something. But here I changed the condition. I said if this is the standard way to do it. You won't just write if file, that's all. No. The name of your file uploader, you write if file is not none. Why? Because you are trying to upload something. It's not none means it's not empty. It means somebody uploaded something. So if file is not, remember this file name can change. You can give your own any name, maybe file 1, file 2 or anything, you can give it any name. If file dot none, if file is not none, that is not empty. Now this is what I want it to do. Now this from pin import image, you can do it up, or import IO, you can also do it up, but I decided to do them down here because I want to keep them close to each other. Now what does this pin do? This IO is not really important. We didn't use it. We didn't use it within our application. So what does this pill does? This pill help you to access images. Now, unlike the other image we worked with, this first image we worked with, it was online. We got it, so we don't need that Peel. We don't need it. Peel is a library that allows you to perform manipulation on images. It's a Python library that allows you to perform manipulation on images. So if you upload it online, you can pass the location of the image direct. That was what we did in this app, this place. That was why you can sorry here. That is why here you see I just say st.image and then I pass the image direct. But in this second case, we are not passing the image direct. We are uploading it's not from the internet we got the image. We got the image from our local machine. So since you got the image from our local machine, we need to use Peel to handle the image. We need to use Peel to handle the image. So Peel is what helps you to open the image. So how do we do that? We will give it a name. I gave the name of the variable image because that is what I want to later pass again at the ending of this. I want to pass that to the image st.image widget. So in order for me to open the image, remember this file that I uploaded is going to take the address of the image. It's going to take the URL. There's what we call URL, that is the directory where the image is stored within our local machine. So in order for me to open the image from that location, I will say, I said from Peel import image, I will now say image.open, then I pass the name of that file. So since I gave it a name file, whatever name you give here is what you send to this guy here. So you don't need to panic and say, what will you give him? It's the name that you created here. It will be the same name here and it will be the same name here. So this URL now that I created will help me now anytime I want to access anything that user upload. This guy, this st.image will just accept this image. I can change it to maybe img to differentiate them. Let's say img here. Here will be img also. So whatever is being uploaded will be uploaded within this environment, and then the user will be able to see it. So that was why I was able to create a widget that whenever you submit, this image will be displayed here. So with this, I think I've come to the end of today's class.